What's happening, people? Me again, doing cooking and things. I'm gonna show you my ultimate vegan chili recipe. Um, I'm gonna approach it a slightly different manner because basically this would take about an hour to cook, but I'm gonna keep this video less than 15 minutes. So rather than me go through everything I've got now, we'll put the ingredient list at the end. And if you do plan on cooking it, what I would suggest is watching it first through, and then if you do want to cook along with it, I'll tell you the points. Well, it'll be obvious, and the points where you can pause and join back in when you're ready. First things first, my pan here has got oil on a medium heat, and I've got some cumin seeds, about a teaspoon. So while I tell you what else is going in, we'll get that in there. You don't want them to, you just want them to brown a bit, and you just want to be able to smell that nice toasted cumin smell. Right, so this is where we're making our base, and here is a big old bowl of chopped veg. Now, this is very interchangeable. I've literally gone with what I have laying around that I wanted to use up. You know, I have all these things in my house regularly anyway, but... So I've got 2 onions in here. I've got 3 different coloured peppers. I've got about 4 or 5 carrots, 2 or 3 sticks of celery, and top tip from me, stop chucking your broccoli stalks out. I mean, firstly, you can use them anyway. You can cook them exactly the same as broccoli. I've done whole roasted broccoli stalk in chili oil before, and it's lush. But they're perfect for stuff like this. So I've just got 2 broccoli stalks there, where I've just sort of trimmed the edges around roughly, and yeah, chopped up with the rest. So, got your cumin going there, and then all this is going to go in, and we're going to fry it, moving it around for about 10 minutes. Later on, when we get to the spices part, I would usually be putting dried oregano in, but I just so happen to have fresh oregano at the moment. So I'm going to be adding this in here, but I appreciate that that's not the easiest herb to pick up. So don't worry if you haven't got any fresh oregano, because we can add some dried in a bit. So yeah, hot oil, cumin seeds for about a minute. Get all your lovely veg in. Hooray. Got my fresh oregano, pinch of salt. I'm going to fry that for about 10 minutes. So I'm going to duck out. In that time, boil a kettle, get yourself 500 millilitres of vegetable stock and a cup of green or brown lentils. See you in a bit. Okay, so that's cooking. I should have said as well at the start, there's always something blatant that I forget to say. I'm making a really big chili here. Reason being that it keeps really well and it freezes really well. The story of this is I was vegan a few years ago, and at the time I'd had my first kid and I was working all the craziest hours that I could. I mean, I was a live music promoter, so the hours were all over the place. I was DJing, so those hours were even more insane. I had 1 day a week where I could cook to try and feed me and my wife for the week, because my wife doesn't like cooking. She doesn't. She hates it. So yeah, making this big. Obviously, if you want it smaller, just half the ingredients. But cook it, let it sit overnight if you can. It'll taste even better. And freeze what you want. That's finishing up now. All we're doing is softening that veg. Don't know if I can show you. Oh, looking all lovely and colourful in there. Let's talk spices. Like I said, I'm using fresh oregano. I would usually have dried in here. My ratio is I do 3 teaspoons. I do the same amount of smoked paprika, cumin, and oregano. So I've got 3 teaspoons of smoked paprika, 3 teaspoons of cumin, would be oregano, but I've gone fresh. I've got 1 teaspoon of chili powder, about a quarter teaspoon of ground cloves, a teaspoon of all-purpose seasoning, which you can get anywhere, and just under a teaspoon of allspice. And along with that, I've got some good grinds of pepper, about 2 teaspoons of salt, and a teaspoon of sugar. Veg is going. There's a few things going in now. Firstly, I'm a garlic fan. I've got about 7 cloves of garlic chopped up there, and I've just got 1 chili in there because I'm not even sure, I think it's a Scotch bonnet. It wasn't labelled. So it's going to be pretty spicy, so I'm just sticking with 1. If you're using normal chilies, maybe 2 or 3. If you can get jalapenos, even better, and if you do, put them in with the veg here. So I'm going in, we got our garlic, we got our chili. Give that a little mix first and let it fry for like 30 seconds before we add anything else. I've got the zest of a lime, and then the lime saved for later. My advice is whenever you're using lime juice or lemon juice, always zest it and keep it in the fridge. Got a spice mix we just went through. Cup of green lentils or brown lentils. Red lentils won't work because you need something that keeps their bite. I've got my stock, and I've got some Marmite. You don't have to like Marmite to use it for this. I understand some of you don't. And one more thing. So I don't always do, but my friend Pat, who I work with in Kimmy's, he puts ground coffee in his chili, and I happen to have a bit left over earlier, so I've got a teaspoon of ground coffee in this as well. Like I said, I don't usually do it, but it makes sense because you just want, the reason that's there is you just want something to give that dark, sort of rich element to it. So, in with spices, in with lime zest, in with the green lentils. Give that a stir first. Way out. Don't headbutt that. Get that all nicely mixed in. Marmite, probably about a tablespoon. Trust me. Get that in there. Ooh. Tomato puree as well I've got out. Get your Marmite in there, get your tomato puree. About the same amount of Marmite you did. Give all this a really good stir. Bit of spice to the left there. So I'll show you it now, but it's starting to smell like a real chili, and the colour of it is taking that nice sort of dark tone. Dark. I like to say dark, it does. So if we have a little look in here now, it's looking a bit like that. When you've sort of fried that for about a minute or so, we're getting the stock in. We're going to have that in. We're going to put this on a high heat with the lid on, and we're going to just cook it on that high heat with the lid on for about 20 minutes, occasionally stirring to make sure it doesn't catch. The reason we're doing that mainly is to cook the lentils off before we add our beans. So yeah, let's have that going for about 20 minutes on a high heat. Make sure you do give it a stir occasionally. Depending on your lentils, lentils always act differently. You might want to add a bit more hot water if you feel like it's starting to catch, but it should be alright. 500 ml to about a cup of lentils is usually okay. Back in a bit. Just get some of the lentils. You want them sort of al dente. So they still got a little bit of bite to them. Yeah. It's looking cool. Basically, there shouldn't be a lot of liquid sloshing around in there because it's all been soaked up into the lentils. And have a look. Oh. Obviously, I know the steam doesn't make it easy, but what you've got there is a solid chili base. Doesn't taste that spicy. Maybe that chili was an imposter. It'll be fine. Okay, at this point, we're going in with a bunch more things. Oh, that's rubbish. There you go. In here I've got 1 can of black beans, 1 can of kidney beans, 1 can of butter beans, and a can of sweet corn, and that's going in. Very interchangeable. You know what beans you like. You know what beans you normally buy. Black beans are my favourite. Kidney beans feel like they're supposed to be in a chili. You can use chickpeas, cannellini beans, the dookie beans. I mean, let's just play the bean naming game, shall we? You can use any of them. Get that mixed up nicely in there. And here I've got one of my favourite words to say in a Cardiff accent. Passata. Get some of that in there. I've got a tin of chopped tomatoes here as well. I like to do both just so you get a bit more texture in the tomatoes. Might put 2 of these in, see how it looks. I don't make my chilies that like saucy, I like them chunky. So we'll judge it when we've given it a stir. Mix that up all nice, spread it over the side if you can so that your wife has to clean it later. And the other thing I've got here is general meat substitute things. So this is like the corn chicken pieces, but there's loads of these around. I did one the other week with a new thing I saw in the shops, which is like a tofu kebab mock thing. You don't even need them at all. You can just add more beans if you want. I've used soy chunks before. I love the texture it gives, but it's kind of like a bonus if you got them. Get them in there as well. So at this point, your big pan should be getting near maximum capacity. I don't think I'm going to add the other can of tomatoes. I quite like the consistency, how it's looking. Lid on, simmer that for half hour, yeah? Got a bag of tortilla chips. Nothing fancy about them, they're like 46p. While that's cooking, I'm going to take out all my frustration on this bag of chips. Just think about how frustrated you're being in lockdown and just open the bag a bit. Get in there. Get in there. You can use a blender if you want a breadcrumb. But yeah, break these guys up with your hands loads. I'll be back in a bit. I've made this bag of chips. Think about what it's done. All we're doing now, we've got our previously zested limes. Take this off the heat. We're good. Woo-hoo. Squeeze your lime juice over. I realised earlier I started telling the story about me having kids and stuff like that, and I didn't really finish it. Basically, I would batch cook for the week, and I got really into making chilies at that point, and researched so many recipes, and this is basically an amalgamation of all these little tips and tricks that I learned. Just found out I've got a cut on my finger. That's always the best way when you squeeze a lime and get a shredder in pain. Lime juice is in. Get your broken up tortilla chips. Give that all a real good stir. You want your tortilla chips to get in there. Get in there. Basically, once you are happy with how everything is mixed up, we're not on any heat. Just stick the lid on. Let it sit for at least 10 minutes before you eat it. Chili always tastes better the next day. You know, if you know that you want chili tomorrow, but you've got some time today, cook it and just leave it overnight in the pan. And that's our chili done. I'm not going to show you it in a bowl. I will come and show you it here. I'm not going to show you it in a bowl because I haven't made any rice yet. If you want to know how to make awesome rice, look at my curry video the other week. There you go. It works really nicely on its own, just a bowl of it on its own. Super healthy, super nutritious, and you'll fart for days. Hope you're all good, and if you do cook this chili, I hope you enjoy it. In a bit, love. Ta-ra!